We have risen from the ashes to school the masses. Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of the Scholars of Wrestling Show. I'm your man behind the microphone, Scholar Jeff. To my right is the current reigning and defending Scholars of Wrestling champion, Scholar Tarek. How's it going tonight, sir?
All is just totally wonderful, my good fool. How are you this fine week?
I am delightful. I have indulged in a cornucopia of good wrestling and wrestling-related stuff.
As have I! Wow!
What a wonderful time to be alive. Isn't that right, Scholar Brian?
I would try to be the douche that I normally am, but I can't deny it. This week in wrestling was pretty goddamn awesome.
Yeah, in all seriousness, there was honestly a lot to enjoy. All overabundance of joy and merriment aside, there was a lot to enjoy.
It now actually feels like we're on the road to WrestleMania.
It certainly does. So there's a lot to talk about. So let's dive right in with the way we ought to kick off every single episode of the Scholars of Wrestling Show, with a little bit of backstage news.
Indeed, let us go ahead and peek behind that curtain and check in on a little
backstage news. Release meh.
Yes, unfortunately, there were a cornucopia, there's that word again, of releases in the WWE. Specifically, Hideo Itami, TJ Perkins, Ty Dillinger, and surprisingly enough, Arn Anderson.
Never argue with the boss man if you want to keep your job. If you don't want to keep your job, then have fun.
Especially when both Arn Anderson and McMahon were in hot water as it is.
Yep. It's like Arn Anderson decided that day, I don't want to be here anymore, so I'm going to yell at Vince. Okay then. Goodbye. Sucks because it's Arn Anderson, but... And right in time for the birthday bash, too. Good Lord.
Yeah, that's some awful timing.
The other three we already basically knew about. Hideo Itami.
I am immensely glad he's finally gone and that he can actually live up to his full potential in pretty much any other company on the planet.
I think he's going back to Japan.
Yes.
Most likely, yes.
And Ty Dillinger, definite AEW.
Mm-hmm.
And
strong candidate.
It's like the one man who actually WWE allowed his release. Which was surprising considering they were like making sure they keep the talent they had.
Mm-hmm.
So they would stay clear of AEW, but no, not in Dillinger's case.
I figure he stood firm, like they knew that there was no shot of him trying to stay, so they were like, okay,
well,
we're gone.
He publicly announced it. He's like, yeah, I'm gone. So they're just like, can't argue that.
It's just another case of the WWE not knowing what to do with a character. Who
was in bad terms anyway because Vince hated the whole 10 chant. That was the whole reason for his lack of push. Just because he just was not a fan of the
And that's a problem because if he's getting the chance, you should do something with it. But Vince McMahon's school of thought, I hate it. I don't want it. Mm-hmm. So hey,
you're getting the fan reaction from the crowd that I wasn't approving of. Well, I'm gonna make sure your career is a living hell.
And TJP was just dumbass. He knows the rules, and he got a whole bunch of tattoos. Didn't tell the WWE about it. The WWE says if you're gonna change your body in any kind of way that is holy shit balls completely different, you gotta let the WWE know. TJP did not, so here we are.
I'm not gonna lie. I think he did it intentionally to get fired.
Oh, I'm sure.
Probably, yeah. I think he probably saw the writing on the wall at this point, and
though to be fair, what was he doing? What impact was he making?
Let's be honest. Who cares?
He introduced the dab to WWE,
and that automatically makes it. And that automatically makes
not even my power of positivity can just overlook that.
That automatic. The first time he did that, he automatically went on my shit list. Done. If
Hey, at
there's
least he
one
didn't
thing
do
I
Fortnite
hate,
dances on WWE TV.
He
if
just
it
had a
did-
fun theme song.
Yes, he did. He did.
And I still stand by he should have had the Bowser theme or some kind of heelish video game theme when he turned heel.
That would have been cool, but alas, maybe you'll find the time and the resources to do it in AEW or someplace else. Who knows? But be that as it may, there was a good thing to be gleaned from this week in wrestling, specifically from in the cinemas, because I got the chance to see Fighting with my family.
Is it any good?
As a matter of fact, it is. It's quite good. It's quite good, in fact.
Tell me how.
Yes. Well, basically the production was squeaky clean. The writing was good. The acting was good. Nick Frost and Lena Headey as her parents are absolutely fantastic. I mean, come on, it's Nick Frost.
Let me ask you, did they have like a screenshot at the end of her actual family?
They, right at the beginning, right as the credits started rolling, they actually had legit footage of her family, the actual night when she won the Divas Championship against AJ.
From not Selena Vega?
Yeah, that, and I was going to get to that. You can tell, the worst thing you can say about this movie is that it's designed for an audience who doesn't watch wrestling. And that isn't always a bad thing. It's not a bad thing because they take the time to construct the world around it, number one. And number two, they also take the time to explain wrestling terminology, wrestling culture. Just the way they execute it and they explain everything, it's whether you're a fan of wrestling or not, it does not insult your intelligence. It just merely says to you, hey, here's this whole new world. It may be crazy and unfamiliar to you, but hey, this is what life is for these people.
Plus, we have a hand.
Hand?
Mae Young's kid.
Oh, yes. That, which thankfully stays far away from all of this.
Did Vince Vaughn make sense as a wrestling trainer?
I'll tell you what, that...
Does it work?
I'll tell you what, in all honesty, I was expecting Vince Vaughn to play the typical type of role you see Vince Vaughn in, but he plays it completely straight the entire time. And once you see what he's doing, and you see how serious his character is, then you too get into that. There's actually one scene where Vince Vaughn raises his voice and he sounds like a real coach, and you don't expect it, but it really sucks you in. He does a genuinely good job in the role. No funniness really ever from the character. He's the straight man here. All the humor is elsewhere. It's given to The Rock. It's given to Nick Frost and Lena Headey, who do it quite well. Cersei
Lannister is funny?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Cersei Lannister is funny.
Oh.
Yeah. It's the optimal blend of humor and serious and heart and family drama. It all works. The biggest problem I had as a wrestling fan is how quickly they glossed over the very end. What leads up to her coming out on Raw and winning the Divas title. That one, after they spent the entire movie fully explaining how the world of wrestling works, it came across as a little bit too third act of Rocky. Like, it portrayed it as a bit too much of a legitimate sport, and it doesn't really go too much into what built that moment. Not to mention the fact that, again, like you said, AJ Lee is being portrayed by Zelina Vega, who is also dressing like Zelina Vega the entire time, where she's supposed to be this very over-the-top, very glamorous, glittery Divas champion, when that's not who AJ Lee was. But at the same time, you understand the dynamic they were going for.
Well, that's what happens when you leave the company on a, bad term.
It didn't even feel like they were disparaging her in any way. It just, it seemed like they were taking some very creative liberties with the story that they were trying to tell.
Mm-hmm.
It honestly felt like, because I remember when they actually taped that match during, like, right after a Monday Night Raw, just to get the footage and to do all that. It was actually quite a ways after they finished the rest of the movie. And that's the way it felt. It felt like they taped everything else and filmed everything else, including the retapes and for the rewrites, way after this match was filled. So it almost like they had to make do with the footage that they had.
So what you're saying is it felt like the match itself that they did in the movie felt completely different than the rest of the movie.
I'm not going to say
it felt like it didn't fit, right?
It felt like it was a little too glossed over. The build and the character development and everything else leading up to that point was very, very good, and I loved every second of it. It's just the ending didn't seem as strong as it could have been. But really, I feel like that, at least to me, was mostly because I knew what actually happened. We're diehard wrestling fans. We are the scholars of wrestling.
We watched it
We
live.
know what happened. But even so, the whole experience was very, very good. It all seemed very sincere and very heartfelt. It came from a good place, and I had a good time.
So,
Facial
hair rating. What would you give this movie?
Facial hair rating, I would honestly give this a high full beard, 4 out of 5. The last little part I mentioned stops it from being a goat face as far as wrestling films go. It wasn't quite as good in quality as, say, The Wrestler was, but it had a very high enjoyment factor that makes me... I could absolutely watch this film over and over again, whereas something like The Wrestler you would only see once and then it's just such a downer that you don't want to pick it up again.
Mm-hmm.
This one I would absolutely see again, and I would absolutely recommend. 4 out of 5, go see Fighting With My Family.
Alright.
That's an order.
You don't tell the champion what to do, fool.
No, but I am recommending it because I know you're going to love it.
See? Why couldn't you word it like that? Why do you have to be so demanding on it?
Because I like to mess with you.
Ugh.
But anyway, moving on to the rest of the world of professional wrestling, kicking things off with Monday Night Raw and the massive announcement that we got on Monday Night Raw.
The happiest of happy.
Roman Reigns is officially... His cancer is in remission. Roman Reigns is back and healthy.
And of course, you get the naysayers, as you will, because people in this fandom are out of control.
Well,
and they say, and I get it. Okay, it was mighty quick. Okay, and it looks like he didn't lose anything from it. But okay, if you see Twitter the next day, the one of the leukemia Twitter accounts actually called out fans who were saying that it was that WWE made this a work so that they could finally get Roman Reigns over. And I'm like, and they actually pointed out that there are various different kinds of leukemias, and not every time it comes back is a full return. Mm-hmm. Could just be a flare-up, which is what this was. This was a flare-up. It got taken care of quickly. Roman Reigns is back and ready to be the Roman Reigns we all know and sometimes love, most of the time hate.
Not to mention that this is also Roman Reigns we're talking about, a man who has been in prime physical condition for years and years and years. He is literally a professional athlete, so modern science and medicine combined with a guy who's in his physical prime, everything was explained that we saw, and there we go. Because I have to freely admit, I was invested in this, but there was still the guy who has been